So people don't realize that a significant part of the unhappiness in their lives is actually generated by unnecessary, negative, often destructive mind activity, and they don't even know it.
You've been trained to forget your power, not by accident, but by design. Every system, every belief, every fear you carry was installed to make you bow. Not to God, but to worry, to stress, to struggle. These have become your gods, and you've been worshiping them silently, emotionally, energetically. But today we pull back the veil. Today you remember who you are, not just a survivor of problems, but a God over them. This isn't hype. This is metaphysical law. And once you understand it, reality will never have power over you again. Let's begin. Here's the truth most people will never tell you. You were made to rule over your problems, not be ruled by them. God didn't create you to merely survive the chaos of life. He made you a God over it. But because you were never taught that, because religion trained you to shrink, to bow, to seek power outside of yourself, you can't embody it. You can't live it. And so your power remains dormant, buried beneath layers of fear, guilt, and misbelief. The reason you haven't tapped into this truth isn't because you're unworthy. It's because the very definition of God you were raised on is incomplete, limited, and in many ways, weaponized. Before we go any deeper, we have to reclaim and redefine what God truly is. Not in a way that dishonors the sacred, but in a way that awakens it within you. This isn't blasphemy. This is your birthright. Let's flip everything you've been taught. Growing up, many of us were conditioned to believe that even imagining ourselves as divine was blasphemous. The moment you even entertain the thought of being a God over your problems, you can hear it, can't you? That inner voice, echoing sermons, pastors, fear-based programming, that's the devil. But here's the deeper question. What if real blasphemy isn't thinking too highly of yourself, but thinking too low? What if the sin isn't in claiming divinity, but in denying it? Real blasphemy is not saying, "I am powerful." Real blasphemy is believing God is only out there in the clouds, detached, untouchable, while ignoring the spark of the divine within you. It's going to church in your best outfit, worshiping a distant figure in the sky, while the spirit within you remains unacknowledged. Scripture says it plainly in 1 Corinthians, "Don't you know that you are God's temple and that His Spirit lives in you?" But 99% of people, they live like God is an external authority, not an internal presence. They've been trained to outsource their power, to bow to the problem, instead of becoming the answer. Let me show you how this plays out. Imagine you lose your job. Your income is gone. Your future feels uncertain. Immediately, you spiral, panic, stress, doubt. Now pause. In that moment, who's in control? Not you. You've allowed the circumstance to become your God. You've bowed to it emotionally, spiritually, mentally. You've handed it your authority. But what if instead you remembered that you are the living temple of God? That your source isn't the job, but the divine intelligence within you? You'd move differently. You wouldn't beg reality to fix itself. You'd command a new one into existence. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. You were never meant to worship your problems. You were never meant to live in fear, bow to lack, or be ruled by stress. You were meant to embody divinity, to walk in authority, to recognize that the very Spirit of God moves through you and creates with you. Until you reclaim that truth, You'll keep mistaking survival for faith and fear for humility. But now you know. You were born complete, not lacking, not needing to chase power, approval, or divine favor. Everything you need to shape reality. Every tool, every spark of divine intelligence is already within you. What's missing is awareness. What's needed is the courage to reclaim what's been buried under layers of dogma, fear, and shame. And no, you're not going to hell for this truth. You're going to heal. Let's break this all the way down. Let's start with the most misunderstood word in human history: God. What is God, really? That's a loaded question, and one that requires deep humility, because the human mind is finite, and the divine is not. But here's one of the clearest metaphysical truths I can offer. God is not a man in the sky. God is not a person. God is impersonal energy, the highest frequency of consciousness, also known as the Most High. Let me give you something to ground that idea. Think about the sun. The sun shines on everyone, the saint and the criminal, the rich and the poor, the awakened and the ignorant. It doesn't say, "You prayed today, so here's some light," or "You messed up, so I'm skipping your house." The sun radiates energy without judgment. It doesn't reward or punish, it just is. That's impersonal energy. It gives light and warmth, but it can also burn if you misuse it. Stand in it and you grow. Stay too long without awareness and you blister. The sun isn't personal. It simply responds to how you interact with it. That's how divine energy works. If you vibrate at the level of peace, you attract peaceful experiences. If you dwell in fear, you sync with fear-based realities. It's not emotional, it's energetic. It's not reward or punishment, it's physics of the soul. Now look at Acts 10:34. God is no respecter of persons. That means God doesn't play favorites, not based on personality, not based on race, class, religion, or status. The divine responds to alignment, to frequency, to vibration. So when you feel like life is attacking you, when you think God is punishing you, it's not personal. You just stuck a fork in the socket and got shocked. It's energy, it's physics, it's alignment. That's why your definition of God matters so much. Because however you define God is how you'll experience God. If your image of God is a strict, cold judge in the sky, then you'll live under fear, guilt, and survival mode prayers. But if your image of God is an abundant, boundless source of love, you'll experience flow, guidance, provision, and peace. Two people, two lives, same universe, different definitions. This is why some people live in overflow, while others drown in struggle. Not because God plays favorites, but because people worship different versions of God, created by their own belief systems. You define it, you form it, you experience it. So if you approach the divine like a stingy father, you have to beg, "Please, just give me this job. I promise I won't ask for anything else." You've already boxed that energy into a container of lack and scarcity. And guess what? That's exactly how it will show up. But someone else? They approach God like an infinite well of provision. They expect favor, they expect expansion, and so they receive it. It's not personal, it's metaphysical. Now let's go deeper into a verse that most churches never unpack fully because it challenges everything we've been conditioned to believe. Isaiah 45:7. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. God says, I create light and I create darkness. I make peace and I create evil. Now pause. Let that land. You were taught the devil creates evil, that anything bad must be Satan's work, that God only operates in sunshine and miracles. But here, clear as day, God says, I do it all. This verse doesn't just rattle religion, it exposes a deeper metaphysical truth that most people miss. God is not limited to human concepts of good and evil. God is the formless source capable of expressing both polarities, light and dark, peace and chaos, creation and destruction. Let's get this straight. This verse isn't a battle cry for religious fear or fire and brimstone thinking. It's not about angels versus demons. It's not about being worthy or unworthy. It's about the raw truth that most people aren't ready for. God is pure, impersonal energy. And energy can become anything, depending on how it's channeled. Like fire, it can warm a home or burn it to the ground. Like water, it can nourish life or flood and destroy. The energy isn't good or evil, it's just powerful. And it responds to your consciousness, your alignment, your intention. That's why this verse is so powerful. It doesn't mean God is evil. It means God is total, complete, infinite, beyond duality. So when your life feels like it's falling apart, it's not that God is against you. It's that you're experiencing an unconscious interaction with divine energy. Not punishment, but reflection. Not wrath, but resonance. God doesn't punish. God doesn't pick favorites. God mirrors. That's what Isaiah 45:7 is really revealing. The divine isn't divided, it's unified, and how you use the source determines what it becomes in your life. Fear turns it into darkness. Peace turns it into light. Resentment turns it into destruction. Gratitude turns it into abundance. Now that we've redefined what God is, impersonal, formless, creative energy of the highest frequency, we can begin to reclaim our own divine power. To be a God over your problems doesn't mean you never face hardship. It means your problems no longer rule you. They don't suffocate you. They don't trigger constant anxiety. They don't break your spirit. Why? Because you are now in control. You have aligned with the source of creation within you. You've stopped waiting for a savior outside of you and realized the savior has always been you. But before we go further into that, here's something you need to ask yourself. Who have you really been worshiping? We're not talking about conspiracy videos or celebrity idols. We're talking about what you've given your power to. Fear, insecurity, scarcity, old religious programming. Because whatever you've bowed to, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, has become your God. And now, it's time to reclaim your throne. Here's a truth most people never recognize. For something to become a God over your life, it doesn't need a temple. It doesn't need incense, altars, or prayers. It only needs one thing: a stronger frequency than yours. That's it. Whatever holds the dominant energy in your emotional field at any given moment rules you. It becomes what you submit to, consciously or unconsciously, voluntarily or by default. So when worry drowns out your peace, when stress hijacks your nervous system, when chaos takes over your thoughts and decisions, that energy has become your God. And here's the twist. This doesn't just happen to the unawakened, it happens to all of us. Even the most spiritual among us have moments when their frequency dips because energy oscillates. Your vibration is never static. It rises and falls with your choices, your reactions, your awareness. So let's kill the myth. You don't have to be high vibe 24/7, but you do have to learn how to reclaim your center. That's what separates the 1% from the 99%. The 99% live on autopilot, reacting to problems, stuck in the emotional currents of fear, lack, and stress. But the 1%? They've learned how to anchor themselves in a stronger internal frequency, even when life throws punches. We no longer live in a world ruled by brute strength. This isn't the caveman era where power meant physical force. We've evolved. Today, the world is ruled by one thing: frequency. In this reality, whoever holds the highest frequency wins. Not the richest, not the loudest, not the smartest, the most energetically convicted. Because conviction is the power behind frequency. What determines the strength of a frequency? One thing, and one thing only: your ability to maintain unwavering conviction in your belief or idea. Let that sink in. The strongest frequency will always belong to the one with the deepest conviction. Not the one who talks the most, not the one who knows the most, but the one who refuses to be moved. So if stress has more conviction than your peace, you'll live in stress. Fear has more conviction than your faith, you'll live in fear. Chaos has more conviction than your clarity. Your life will reflect confusion. It's not personal. It's not karma. It's resonance. That's how most people lose, because they keep getting emotionally overpowered by the frequencies they were meant to master. Let me make this practical. You're having a good day, balanced, focused, grounded. Then, out of nowhere, a bill hits, someone disrespects you, or you get rejected unexpectedly. Boom. Your emotions start spinning. Your energy's up, down, sideways. You've gone from peace to panic. In that exact moment, guess what happened? Your frequency got overpowered. And that's the real game. Emotion is energy in motion. And every emotion carries a vibrational frequency. Your ability to stay grounded, even in the storm, isn't just spiritual maturity. It's your superpower. It's how you take your power back. Here's the raw truth. Whatever holds the strongest frequency in the moment rules the moment. It becomes your functional God, not in theology, but in energy. So the goal in life isn't to run from problems. The goal is to cultivate a frequency stronger than the problem. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens through conviction, your unshakable belief in your vision, your peace, your divine authority. Not when everything is smooth, but especially when everything is not. Let's make this real. You're going through life. Things are flowing. Then suddenly, life shifts. A client walks away. You lose an opportunity. Your boss lets you go. Someone throws shade or drama into your space. And in that instant, your peace is shaken. Your emotions spiral. You feel thrown off center. That moment, that's your checkpoint. It's the clearest reflection of your internal foundation. If you're truly aligned with abundance, if you truly believe you're already walking the path to $20,000 months, then one unexpected bill shouldn't undo you. But if that bill sends you into panic, if a missed opportunity makes you question everything, then here's the reality. Your conviction isn't strong enough. Because real conviction doesn't flinch under pressure. It doesn't break at the first sign of resistance. It stands tall. It stays grounded. It holds frequency. Let me be clear. The dominant frequency always leads. And dominant frequency is powered by deep conviction. So if fear has more conviction than your faith, fear leads. If stress has more conviction than your peace, stress rules. Here's where most people fall. They say they believe in their vision. They say they trust the process. But the moment reality tests them, they crumble emotionally, which means their belief was conditional. And conditional belief creates fragile frequency. You can't master your reality with a shaky vibration. You can't lead your life when your conviction can be broken by a bad day, a bounced payment, or someone else's opinion. If something outside of you can shift everything within you, then that something is ruling your life, and whatever rules you becomes your God. Moses was made a god, and so were you. Now this might sound like blasphemous, but it's not. It's biblical truth that's been buried under layers of religious conditioning and misunderstood doctrine. Let's go to the source. Exodus 7:1. See, I have made you a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet. God didn't say, I've sent you with authority. He said, I've made you a god. Not equal to God, but divinely empowered to govern what once oppressed you. Moses was made a god to Pharaoh, a representation of the systems, structures, and forces that once enslaved his people. And here's what no one tells you. You are no different than Moses. He was a man, flawed, fearful, unsure. But he was willing to tap into divine energy and walk in obedience to higher consciousness. So if Moses could step into that power, what makes you think you can't? Pharaoh wasn't just a man, he was a metaphor. Let's go deeper. In the book of Exodus, Pharaoh enslaved the Israelites. But on a metaphysical level, Pharaoh represents every oppressive force in your life. Fear, stress, worry, resistance, scarcity, doubt. And Moses? Moses represents you, your higher self, your divine potential, your awakened consciousness. The world? That's your Pharaoh. Your circumstances, setbacks, toxic patterns, they aren't punishments. They're your proving ground. And the moment you forget you are Moses, the moment you forget you carry the divine within you, that's when Pharaoh wins. When Moses asked God, "Who should I say sent me?" God didn't respond with a name or a title. He said, "I am that I am. Tell them I am has sent you." Exodus 3:14. That wasn't just a phrase, it was divine code. I am is not a name, it's a declaration. It is the highest expression of creative consciousness. And here's the part that will shift your entire life. Every time you say, I am, you are invoking that power. So when you say, I am stressed, I am broke, I am not enough, you are unconsciously misusing the name of God and programming your reality to reflect it. Because the I is the physical you. The AM is the now, the eternal present. And whatever you attach to I am becomes. That's why I am is sacred. That's why it's powerful. Because you are the vessel through which it creates. Let's bring it all together. You don't become a god over your problems by wishing them away. You don't defeat fear by stressing about it. You don't rise above struggle by emotionally breaking down every time something goes wrong. You rise by mastering one thing: frequency. The moment your internal frequency becomes stronger than the problem bows. You don't react, you respond. You don't spiral, you anchor. You don't chase peace, you embody it. That's how you become untouchable. Not because the storm doesn't come, but because your frequency no longer moves with the wind. So ask yourself, what are you attaching your I am to today? Because whatever it is, you're becoming it. And the moment you anchor your I am in truth, in vision, in divine conviction, Pharaoh can no longer hold you. So let's bring it home. If you want to rule your reality, if you want to create on purpose, if you want to walk like the divine force you were born to be, you must hold the stronger frequency. And that frequency comes from one thing: conviction. Not convenience, not spiritual hype, conviction, the unshakable belief that you are not the storm. You are the calm that commands it. Practice it, discipline it, live it. Because when your frequency dominates the world around you, you stop worshiping worry. You stop bowing to fear, and you start walking in godhood, not in arrogance, but in alignment. Not as a beggar of blessings, but as a co-creator of destiny. So let me ask you, what are you declaring today with your I am? Because whatever it is, you're becoming it. If this message woke something up in you, share it with someone who's still forgetting their power. Comment below and declare, I am rising. Let's raise the frequency together.